Right. So Charles, Eric, and Mike here. We were just on the phone and all agreed that we should video record what we were talking about. Eric was discussing, lawful issues concerning, my efforts with righteousarmy.org and, me being registered. He expressed some concerns indicating that the militia, that the de facto has definitions of militia and the common law or de jure government would have different definitions and applications, and said a few things, at which time I indicated, that I kind of, he said something that caused me to say, well, I asked him, what are the differences between, the de facto definitions in the government? And he kind of went into something along the lines of, the statutes, different statutes in all the states that govern militia. And I said, well, frankly, I disagree with that. And even if we have to challenge states in the courts all the way up to the Supreme Court, government has nothing at all to do with the militia. We, the people, are the militia, period. Charles concurred. And Charles also said that he doesn't think the fact that I registered with the state as a nonprofit organization is something that would adversely affect either, because especially the fact that it's nonprofit, it puts us kind of in that public services kind of thing. We started realizing at that point we better record this, so we can reiterate any of those things, guys, if you want to. But
okay, so let me respond real quick. So first off, the differences are we're talking about different jurisdictions here. Okay, so different planes of existence, and we're trying to figure out which plane of existence Mike and the Righteous Army fall into. If you want to hold on to the name of Righteous Army and you're registered with the de facto government as a not-for-profit organization, there are obligations in being a nonprofit organization that are going to attach you to that jurisdiction. Whether you agree with it or not is indifferent, because we have to understand the situation. And the situation is they have all the guns, all the manpower, and they can do pretty much whatever they want. We see it all the time. And so if you're going to put yourself in their jurisdiction, then you're subject to their jurisdiction. And by registering as a nonprofit, that's exactly what you're doing. A living man and a living woman, they don't have any obligation to register anything anywhere. In fact, if you wanted to do the Righteous Army and you wanted to do it as a living man, what you should do is create a PMA, a private member association, and everybody that comes in has to sign the agreement and they have to pay membership dues. That's the best way. Now, you don't even have to charge a membership due, but the PMA, the contract, that's quintessential to putting you into the private, whereas now you're operating in the public.
Let Charles respond to that, please, if you will.
Thank you, Michael. Eric, you're making some good points, but I believe you're entrenched in a mind frame set that is kind of boilerplate patriot info that my deeper common law realm is affecting. For instance, number one, there's two kinds of public. There's de facto public. That's what you're concerned about. You're concerned about de facto public. What I believe Michael is doing here is common law jurisdiction, de jure, organic, body politic public, okay? It's not the evil empire franchise. And the Secretary of State of Florida, she's not the secretary, she or he is not the secretary of the civil municipal de facto government of the state of Florida. She's the secretary of the state of Florida.
That's right.
The state of Florida is the people of Florida, okay? It's not the civil municipal de facto government of the people of Florida. It's the people of Florida. There's a difference there. And Michael is serving the interests of the people. He's not asking for a privilege from the de facto slave trader government. And that's how I'm looking at it. And I think that's kind of maybe not clear in his mind, but in his heart, I think that's what Michael's moving towards. And I think it's a good thing.
Definitely clear in my heart, and you just made it very clear in my mind. I concur with everything you said there, Charles.
Well, okay, so but wait a minute. There is the fact that you registered with the de facto Secretary of State, right?
And let me interject on that, because the thing that came to my mind is, again, the fraud issue.
And there's another issue too, in that, you know how judges, they wear two hats. They can switch back and forth between their de facto military police state hat, or they can hit for a few moments when it's convenient. They can say, "Oh, I'm following due process of law." Well, maybe in that particular 30 seconds they are doing that, but then they switch back to their evil empire hat. The judges do it all the time, Eric, and I dare suggest that the Secretary of State, not the Secretary of the government of the state, but the Secretary of State has two hats. And sure, she does serve the de facto robotic government, especially when she's registering commercial corporations. But when she's doing a nonprofit that's clearly declared in the public interest, Michael can make a real solid argument that he's registering with the Secretary of the State of the people of Florida and of the USA. And I think that's a solid argument. And I think you're making a fundamental error that disempowers us by presuming worst case scenario that it's a contract. And no doubt that you are correct on the point that the corrupted the evil empire judges are inclined to prosecute and convict Mike for having entanglements, like what you say. You got merits there, but I think Michael is probably making calculated risk calculations in his mind, and I think he's willing to gamble that. And it's intelligent, calculated to risk, and especially with people like you and me on his flanks and the others around him, I think we can fuck those bastards and go ahead with the more empowering jurisdiction and claim that we're pure common law in the good public interest, not the de facto evil empire public interest. I yield.
Okay. So in response to that, again, there's just a separation of jurisdiction. And again, it's entanglement, and it's also name usage. I mean, what are we doing here? Is this a righteous army, which would lead me to believe that it's something that is based on a religious principle, or are we the militia? I mean, it's kind of which one are we? And if we're the righteous army, that's a registered entity, yeah, it's probably, Mike, you're probably going to be staring down the barrel of a de facto officer's gun at some point in this, because they are probably going to challenge you, and they're probably going to bring up this entanglement issue. And, you know, Charles may be right. We may be able to win it in court, but that's not a guarantee.
Well, we could assemble our own jury and adjudicate it before the de facto courts even come at us. And to build on one of your other points there, Eric, what makes you presume that the traditional definition of a militia under our state and national constitutions is somehow disharmonious, conflicted with Michael's title name of righteousarmy.org? What makes you think there's an inherent conflict there?
Well, righteous, for one, indicates religious doctrine or spiritual doctrine, right? Right. That's a term that is commonly associated with those types of movements. Okay. The militia is meant to be the body of people. In America, the body of people are free to choose whatever religion they want, or whatever religion they want. And so by isolating and saying righteous army, you're alienating certain bodies of people from feeling comfortable in participating.
Why, if I might, why can't we be ecumenical, non-denominational, but general spiritual religious tradition?
Well, you can, but that wouldn't necessarily be.
Did we lose you, or did you just go into thought? Yeah.
is responsible for.
You went blank.
That's
You went blank, guys. You went blank. I couldn't hear nothing. I was looking at you guys, and even me, my lips were moving. I couldn't hear nothing. Charles asked a question. He said, "What makes you think that it couldn't be a right, just a good non-denominational, up spiritual, kind of thing?" And that's where everything went blank. So
yeah, I was
lost.
just answering the question. So my response is that if you're going to present yourself as the national militia coordinator, then your obligation is to the people, to all the people of the nation, to help coordinate the efforts of us reestablishing the constitutional militia. Therefore, if you're going to present yourself as the righteous army, I can tell you right now that there are a lot of people out there that are going to feel completely alienated. Okay. I mean, really. And the courts are going to argue that by naming yourself righteous army, you're not a constitutional militia, because the constitutional militia is just that, the militia. The Constitution affords for the militia, which is the body of people, not organizations. And the righteous army is an organization that's registered.
Right. Let me add this to the mix here. I did a video that I just sent out about 30 minutes ago after I got up this morning, just kind of about a 30-minute video, just me talking, alone into my camera about the 9-hour meeting we had last night.
I saw that. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was my way, again, of just clarifying, almost, in theory, even a preemptive defensive strike, on, if anything ever did go awry, like what Glenn was suggesting. I just addressed those issues. And again, I think I made myself clear in that video of where I'm coming from. I never even expected, I appreciate that you're on board, Eric, and that you're trying to help clarify legalities or law issues, common law issues, and making sure things are in a way that are lawful and nobody is subject to any kind of entanglements or lawful issues. But frankly, I would say that just in the same way that all of us, myself included, have been defrauded with our lives with this whole birth certificate thing and being considered paupers of the state without even knowing it, and being subject to this corporate system. I would also say that, I rather, perhaps naively, I don't like to use that word, but perhaps naively, but certainly innocently, just went on the approach of, man, we have as I've indicated, communists who the government of the United States of America, even under the corporate structure, has ruled or concurred in Congress based on what I read, and I believe it was US 50, that communism should be outlawed. Communism is not an acceptable alternative form of government. Even it's viewed as adversarial to the US government. And my understanding of communism and communists having infiltrated and hijacked our government through a corporate system, it even brings up the whole issue of, as I again referenced in my video, we're not, my beef isn't against the government. If anything, my beef is against a corporation. If treason is applicable to somebody endeavoring to use force to take out a government, then the question needs to be asked, is treason also applicable to somebody trying to expose a corporation or hold a corporation accountable? Or for that matter, even going back to, no, it's just about holding the government accountable, when ultimately my beef isn't even about the government so much, it's just about the corporation who's acting as a government or who has hijacked the government, right?
I appreciate all that, Mike, but none of that has to do with anything that I'm talking about here. I'm talking about, okay, so we're talking about the fundamentals of the foundation of our country, and we're talking about standing on those foundations, right? We can agree.
Hold on.
I'm listening to you, Eric.
Yeah, I'll wait for him to get back because I want him to hear this too. It's important for him to understand my perspective, and you too, Charles, because I think you talk about my entrenchment, or mindset, and actually nothing could be farther from the truth. I just understand both sides of the fence really well.
You're claiming to be the only objective person in the room here.
No, I'm not. No, I'm not.
Yeah, that's
No,
what it sounds like.
No, I appreciate your opinion. I do. That's what I just said.
Thank you. Then we got the right to agree to disagree on this.
Yeah, but blurring the lines is where the problems start.
Well, one of us is blurring the lines. I don't think it's me blurring the lines.
I'm not saying you are. I'm saying registering. Listen, just hear me out, please. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying from my perspective, what I see by registering the name Righteous Army with the de facto, because that's what they are. That's the seat that you can say that they're not, but I've been in court and argued these cases, seen these cases argued by other people, and seen them fail time and time and time again. And it's, it's because they're so corrupt. And so my advice is to try and not get in their jurisdiction in any way, shape, or form, because what we're trying to do and what's really necessary is that we just completely reestablish what it's supposed to be based on the fundamentals, the foundation that our forefathers created. And that's my point.
Yeah, I want to interject on that. Because again, this is where, I'm perceiving you, Eric, and this is a good thing. Stop it, dog. Shut up. Shut up. Stop that dog. All right. So, I'm certainly perceiving you as being, again, just, cautious and wanting to walk, the thin line of making sure that any efforts regarding the militia is lawful and, and cannot be, scrutinized, or brought into question specifically by the de facto corporate government system.
Right.
So again, I want to just again, because this is actually an interesting, point that again, I addressed in my video this morning. I appreciate Glenn last night. Glenn really, because I went into this again, I don't like to say naively, but perhaps naively, but certainly good-hearted with just a pretty, innocent thing of, well, gee, we the people make up the militia. We're the militia, and gee, communists are, taking over our country here, and we all need to unite under kind of one banner. What's one banner we can unite under? Well, gee, we're all militia. We all believe in the Second Amendment, which that in itself is contrary to what you were saying about being all inclusive, because there's people out there that disagree with the Second Amendment as well. So going back to the righteous or moral thing, there's people that, are opposed to even guns, right? So there's no such thing as all inclusive in a way. So for me to say those of us who are of like mind regarding the Second Amendment and regarding traditional family values, that could be religious or not. The question came up last night about the word army, and I don't remember who it was that read the definition. Is there's nothing inherent about the term army meaning an armed militant group going after anybody. An army, is a group, an army of people, a group of people. So yes, they can use terms, right, to try to manipulate and control a situation into their, demonic, to favor their.
They're operating under martial law right now. The Constitution in their jurisdiction is suspended. Okay. And he's looking it up from a regular Webster's dictionary. He's not using the law of war or Black's law or any of these things, the tools that they use to create their statute and code. Listen, again, it's just about safety. It's about my personal experience. I'm just saying, it's kind of muddying the waters a little bit from my perspective. I'm a foundationalist, a fundamentalist when it comes to things like the foundation of our country. And there's a certain way this needs to be done. You talk about uniting under a banner. That is the militia. That's the banner. You unite under the banner of people. We the people. That's what I'm saying.
Right.
And so start blurring the line, though, And like the whole organization of the militia isn't meant to argue court battles with the de facto corporation. The purpose of the militia is to organize and train the people so that they can help their communities, period. That's it. And so that it would distract from the purpose. And so I think strategically, I think intellectually, and I think philosophically, it's better just to stick with the foundation, militia. That's it. The people, we the people. And don't register it, because you don't have to in the common law. Be in the common law. Live on the land and don't blur those lines, because the average person that's going to come into this, guys, doesn't have the expertise or the support to be able to argue these things. And we have to toe the line. We're setting an example for 3,000 some odd counties that are going to try and be organizing their militia. So we have a responsibility in that to make sure that we try and do it in a way that keeps people from making mistakes. Right. That's my whole point.
Can I jump in there? You said the counties, Eric. Let me turn this off. The counties, and
right.
That could address the issue if we prioritize, if we retain the term militia, at least pushing thereunder. That militia is a state or national term. At the county level, the term is posse comitatus.
Right, exactly. Exactly.
So
exactly.
if we were to prioritize that decentralized grassroots level of organizing more so than the state and national militia organizing, but still the shell there, but we're putting all our energy at the local, county, and precinct and township level, like Exodus 18 requires, then that should take a lot of the danger that you're concerned about off the table, shouldn't it, Eric?
Beautiful. No, you're absolutely correct. And this is what I'm talking about. So if we strategize and we play the cards right, then we can have great success. But if we try and make up battles with things that we don't have to battle, it's only going to preoccupy our time and our success. So, right, we're working on a clock here. So we really are.
Right. So let me add this to the mix, because I appreciate what you just said, Charles. That was right on, and Eric agrees. And as you know, I mean, I've said so many times, me and Eric are lockstep with that. Again, that whole county level, right? Everything's county, and you just, furthered that, Charles. So yeah, that we're all, that's perfect. But now going back to, again, because you guys know as well, I mean, I have the domain name national. See, there's righteousarmy.org,
right?
But I also have the domain name National Militia Network and Militia USA. So those names I could just as well.
There you go. Boom.
Right. And of course I've been promoting those, but I've just been letting them forward to the website. So to what extent then can a person, let's say we all agree that, okay, isolate militia USA, National Militia Network is just militia, and it's all common law and it's separated from de facto. There's no, everything you're talking about, right? We're getting rid of the concerns you have under those labels. Now, what is the relationship, if any, between that reality and then say Joe Schmo over here or Mike saying, man, we need a righteous group of people in this nation, man, and we should get those righteous people to go over and join that,
then okay,
that
so
Militia
right
USA.
There, you just said it. So Mike can do the righteous army, but the National Militia Coordinator, which is what your title is on these calls, needs to be specifically geared towards achieving a mission, a goal. And that goal is to educate these people as they're coming in. So when most Americans, because of their indoctrination, come into the system of, they've realized there's something wrong, and they wake up a little bit and they know militia from the Constitution. So those are the perfect starting platforms to be able to have effect. Now, righteous army, if Mike wants to do that in his free time, great, but don't bring that into the militia call. Do that in a separate venue. Make that yours, right? Let that be your heart and your soul, but let the militia be the people.
Right. But to what degree then could Mike say, Yeah, it would almost be like, correct me if I'm wrong, but I hear you maybe suggesting that even anything on the website, righteousarmy.org, should, I mean, well, it could, there could be somebody on their own accord saying, hey, man, we need righteous people, and this is my opinion of you on this. And, we all, in my opinion, we the people are the militia. And, so I'd encourage you to, go over there and join up, and sign up with Militia USA. I mean, in other words, anything and everything I'm still doing at Righteous Army could still apply, right?
Okay, so well, no, I wouldn't do that, Mike. I'm going to give you my advice, and my background originally, okay, is business. That's what I do. I do business, and we're going through like a paradigm shift, and we're trying to restart something that's been asleep for a very long time. Okay, and to do that, we have to do so graciously, and you've mentioned you don't like to say naivety, but your innocence, right? And so this is a very shark infested water, my friend. I've been out here for a long time, and I'm speaking from my heart. Okay, I want to help, right? And I want to see you gain success, because whether you realize it or not, you have put yourself in the position of a leader, and you're going to have to really toe the line, because people are going to look to you, and they're going to confide in you, and they're going to trust in you. And so you have to really set the example, my friend. You really have got a big thing going here. And I don't know that you completely realize that yet. Okay. Charles is exactly right. I'm not going to argue with Charles on 99% of the information, right? But we're going to have healthy debate. That's the point of us having this committee. But those calls, those names, the militia, they need to just be focused on, what do we do? What are the radios that people need to buy? What kind of tools do they need to fix asphalt? What are the procedures for fixing asphalt? What do we do to build a house? Do we have carpenters, right? We need to teach them how to organize as a community, because that's what Americans have forgotten. That's what the militia is. It's just the community acting as one. Okay. And so we really need to respect this, I feel like. And I want to be a part of this, but I've been doing this for a while, and I'm not trying to toot my own horn, because I don't care about notoriety. That's not, you won't find my name in a lot of places for that reason. What I care about is the people. And so if I'm going to be 100% involved and engulfed in something, I need to make sure that everybody that's in a position of leadership knows how to be a leader, because that's a huge responsibility, my friend.
You know what? Two things I want to say on that. I mean, the second thing I wanted to say was, where do you draw the line, right, between a leader being a leader that's constitutional, which is inclusive of all, but yet still being able to point out issues of moral virtue, right, and righteousness and godliness, right?
It's platform. It's platform. It's all about platform. You've got one platform for that, Righteous Army. But in your position as the militia coordinator for the United States of America, you have to be that leader. And that's not an emotional person. That's a fact-driven, logic-based person that is going to address issues consistently with reason and logic and law, and support from a committee of people that are there to really look out for each other.
Right. Yeah, I do want to interject that I concur with you, Eric. It makes sense. If I'm wearing two hats, I definitely have the ability. Wait, hold on one second.
Charles, do you agree?
I was missing your main point there, Eric.
Okay, so let me try to.
So I was just going to say, look. Okay, so I guess I'll maintain this as the militia hat, right? So yeah, I concur with you that if I'm wearing the militia hat, yes, it's constitutional, so it's all inclusive. So I have to be dispassionate, and it doesn't matter race, gender, creed, homosexual, transsexual, transgender, whatever. If somebody feels like they want to be a part of the militia community, to help out in the community, to learn about gun safety, to be involved with ultimately having to bear arms against a foreign invasion because our US government military needs help and they want to be there to assist them with that, that's one hat and one reality. Now,
Right.
over here, you know, Mike, maybe I go with Mike Singer. My pen name is the right, or, you know, whatever, you know, I mean, because as you know, I got my real name, Michael Van Scoik, which I have my pen name. It's my musical stage name, Mike Singer. So I wear two hats with two names, you know, but yeah,
Right.
I can be like, hey man, in my opinion, man, we need a lot of, you know, everybody that voted for Trump, you know, should be involved with Militia USA. I mean, here at Righteous Army, you know, I got my personal views that I share spiritually and, you know, with regards to morality and God. And I think we need more people like that over there at Militia USA. You know, we don't need, you know, in my opinion, we don't need to have, you know, transsexuals and homosexuals in the military, let alone the militia. That's my personal view. But still, nonetheless, get over there, man, and check out Militia USA, man, because we need to build our militia. Have a nice day. Hey, this is Michael Van Scoik with the National Militia Network. Homosexual, transsexual, whoever you are, black, white, yellow, get on over here because we want you to know about, you know, gun safety and protecting your community in case we ever get invaded by, you follow me? Two
Well, okay, so okay, so I don't know if I am being self-conscious right now or not, but I detect a little sarcasm.
No, it's not sarcasm. I'm literally kind of trying to just throw it out.
Okay,
no sarcasm at all. It's really
Perfect.
literally trying to understand the reality and the potential of those
Right.
two realities, but yet kind of working together, but separate. Is that within, do you see a problem with that?
Listen, what you know, okay, you're right. You got to kind of be two people. It's like when you go to work, okay? Like you know, my employees, the people that work for me are vital to what I do. And I love them like they're my family, but they're not my blood family, okay? But they're an extension of my family because I rely on them for my daily bread just as much as they rely on me, right? It's a symbiotic relationship. In that relationship, I have to lead. And so when I lead, if I lead them wrong, it costs money for all of us. And that takes food off the table. So, but that's different than my family, because when I go home to my family, I'm trying to teach my children how to grow as individuals. So there I'm loving and nurturing and compassionate completely all the time. You know what I mean? It's a different mindset. And that's what you're doing. So Righteous Army, you know, your registered entity, man, again, that's like your voice. You know, you're out there in America and promote that. Okay, promote that and let me promote. You use militia, the National Militia Coordinator, okay, to educate, to give tools, no opinion. You don't need to express your opinion in that venue other than maintaining order and the peace. Okay, you need to be assertive and you need to be a leader. You need to be somebody that, you know, can say this or that, and then I maintain those rules myself, and we're here for a purpose, and that purpose is to teach you how to organize your community so that your county is in a lawful capacity so that you can be free Americans. And then a panel of people of you know, like mind and understanding of all the founding documents and the laws and all this. They work on putting the educational material together, right? And you got guys that do radios, and you got guys that do gun safety and all these different things. And you start setting up little segments on those websites so that people can go and get resource. And then what I can do on my end is I can like completely promote the shit out of militia, whatever. I can't remember the
Militia USA
Militia USA and National Militia
Network.
Network. Okay. So I can promote those on freedom from slavery because I happen to have a unique position to where I can get traction with alternative media sources, right? And we can blow this thing up, brothers. I'm telling you, man, because people are done. And all we have to do is separate ourselves and create our de jure county governments. And we're totally sovereign, and we can isolate ourselves and separate ourselves if we want to. We can have a church. We can not have a church. We can be Americans, right? And that's what we need to focus on. So
Thoughts, Charles? Charles,
Yeah.
thoughts?
Thank you. I'm sorry, I stepped away. I was listening. I've been flashing on decentralized. I think I got approval when I mentioned decentralizing militia down to posse comitatus.
right.
Okay. Can I build on that for a moment?
Yeah.
Thank you. At the level of the county court, aka the Shire Court, a real sheriff is true common law county is in the older times it was referred to as the Shire. Anyway, at that level, at the level of the county court, the posse comitatus has authority to be called by the sheriff to assist the sheriff when he needs to enforce the execution of the judgments of the county court.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, it seems to me like, Eric, that what you're talking about for the militia is just organized for in case the Russians or the Chinese invade.
No.
Okay, well, see, that needs to be clear that we're not here just defending against Russians or Chinese. We're here to do grassroots bottom-up confrontation against military police state conspirators that are destroying America under color of legitimacy, under color of governmental authority. And we're in their face with guns and ready to use them if necessary, if they start packing our people off to FEMA camps.
You're absolutely correct. I don't see any problem at all in expressing that's, I mean, obviously the militia is used to defend against enemies, foreign or domestic. I mean, that's what we're here for.
Okay.
But I think to be able to do this with effect, right? Like we've been talking about cases. We talked about how we could manage some cases last night, which I thought was brilliant. And I'm so appreciative of your input, but I think we just need to be very strategic and wise in the way we play this out, because we do have a huge responsibility and we're filling some pretty big shoes, guys. I mean, really big shoes. And so,
let me interject on that, because again,
please.
Obviously, because I'm trying, I just want to keep in perspective, going back to the innocence, the noble and innocent intent with perhaps naivety, if not naivety, just without consideration of law or legal issues, because it certainly has been, my understanding, a very simple one, right? Simplistic, right? Constitutional. We the people are the militia, period. There you go. And as I've said from the beginning, it is a conflict to say that a governor has to do with putting a militia together, right? Because what if that governor is a communist infiltrator who's looking to take down the state? He's not actually going to be putting a good militia together, is he? There's conflicts there, right? So to the extent that, there needs to be guards, in place, right? To not only prevent that, but to enable the militia to maintain its true essence of just being, we the people, as we know, militia existed before the Constitution, right? The points have already been made regarding comitatus, right? Local community, right?
Right.
So we're still saying it's militia because it's the people. It's a sheriff and I think you were trying to say earlier, maybe I got this from Dan, myself, Charles, but the reef of the Shire, right? It was the reef, right, of the Shire, which is where the name comes from, sheriff. So can deputize, we know that a sheriff can deputize the people. And that's what that's what the proper term then is posse comitatus, right? That's the people.
That's right.
Right. So that definitely helps us to at least, you know, for even further minimize, right, any appearance of, you know, we're just going out after government. We're not going out after the government at all. We're just looking out for the welfare of our communities. We're encouraging people. And see, this is why, again, even with the label that you're putting cautions on, if that's the right way for me to say it, with me being the National Militia Coordinator, right? That's a name that truly implies just a guy who's saying, hey, I'm putting forth an effort across the nation to encourage people in their own communities, right, to start organizing. So National Militia Coordinator, right, it can have a ring to it of this guy's trying to put together a big national army, right? Versus no, this guy's just trying to talk to the nation and say, hey, get organized in your local communities, right? You know, under common law.
Well, yeah, because can I take a break for just a second? I need to talk to my daughter, and she's on her way to work, and she just tried to call. Right. She's 21. I don't get to talk to her very much, so I'll be right back. Okay.
All right. Actually, we always joke about Eric being FBI, right? So actually, he's going over. I got him stumped on that one. Now he's got to confer with his sidekick, man.
I think Brian's calling me here. You're going to be alone. No, this isn't.
We like to.
This isn't Brian.
We like to.
Hello. Hello. Is there a human here? Faxes. I hate faxes.
Yeah, we got to always keep that in a light spirit about
yeah,
like I even referenced, right, my video today, you know, the conversation between Eric and David, right? You know, it's really heavy duty, you know, that whole issue, right, of
don't stop. Hello. Another fax number.
Yeah, that whole issue, right, of FBI agents and informants, and David thinking that Eric was, or saying he was, and Eric being upset or offended because he's not. Wow, what's up with that?
It always dials twice. Turning it off. We got. Yeah. Ignore that.
But
can we back up a little bit? I'm sorry for the confusion.
No, I was joking around when Eric left, right? I said he's actually going to confer with his FBI, you know, cohort, right? You know, I got him stumped, right, on my question. Hold on, let me call you back on that, right? I was just kind of joking, piggybacking off the, you know, the agony that we've been going through for weeks with, you know, all these concerns, right, about FBI agents. And at first, you know, we didn't know, you know, about Eric and David Straight, you know, being, you know, saying that or thinking he was FBI, or Eric at least being of the impression that David was, you know, asserting he was FBI. And, you know,
if I'm right, Mike, we've got a duty. Our first duty is before God.
Right.
Okay? And we got a duty to vibes check everybody. We shouldn't trust anybody 100%.
Right on.
God. I
Exactly.
check you. You pass my minimal standards, and
here he comes. He's coming back on now. But yeah, we're on the same wavelength with that.
Okay. But when the conflict starts happening between Eric and Dave, then one or the other, or maybe both of them for a little while, get below that threshold.
Right.
There's doubts in our mind, you know.
Right. Exactly.
And it's good to exhaustively explore those doubts so
Right.
that we can get solid again on
Exactly.
who we trust and who we don't trust.
Right. Yeah, I was just saying, because, you know, Eric and I talk about it openly too. You know, when I had asked, I made a statement, and then you said, hold on, I got, so I joked, as you were leaving, saying, yeah, Eric's got to go confer with his FBI sidekick. So, but then we were talking about that whole issue, right? Of, again, how you were, the concern you had about David, thinking you're FBI when you're not, or you know what I mean? That just all those issues that they'll always come up. They're, like Eric, Charles and I were just saying, he and I are, and you're the same way, Eric. We're never going to trust somebody completely. We're always going to have that open mind about, we don't know, right, for sure, exactly where anybody's coming from, especially when you get deep down that rabbit hole. When you get to a deep, like you said earlier, Eric, this is a big shoe we're putting on, right? We're taking on a big responsibility here to try to do something very significant that is not exactly something that the de facto government would exactly be happy about, you know what I mean? Or like, that it's not something that they're gonna, in other words, if it, assuming that everything we're doing is, like we've always been saying, lawful, peaceful, open, transparent, we're not doing anything, and you're trying to even fine tune it, make it even more so that, no, it's by the book. There's no, mixing of, spirituality, or it's just strictly constitutional militia, because you're wanting to fine tune it, make sure it's 100%, legit, lawfully, right, in accordance with common law, and having no ties to the de facto, system. That's I lost my train of thought, but that's,
If I might jump in,
yeah,
almost all of those ties with the de facto system are presumptions by judicial officers that are corrupted, and they're not being objective. They are in the service of an agenda to go ahead and presume that we've contracted our slavery and that we've been fully informed about it, and it's a legitimate contract. And that's all, 100% of that is a big ugly sack of shit. They're in a criminal conspiracy, each and every one of those evil empire judges. Right. And that's the point that we need to be taking a stand on the moral high ground against them, and not compromise and waffle out.
Right.
No, that I absolutely agree with. I absolutely do. But I also know that right now with the current situation, I mean, let's look at what's going on around us, guys. I mean, it's no joke out there. We are literally in the grips of warfare. I mean, it's not a secret, right?
Right. On that note, Eric, let me interject real quick, because my dad was on his phone, and he's not much of an internet guy or a tech guy at all. And he came in telling me he was seeing some ads and some, news clips or something on his phone that right now, they're doing it now, that UN trucks are coming in. They're shipping them into the US. They're setting up bases. They're coming in, and nobody's doing anything about it.
They've been here. They've been here for a long time, but this is nothing new for them. They've been training for this since 1984.
Right.
Okay.
So for all practical purposes, we've already been taken over. We're being taken over.
Well, the government, the de facto government, yes, but not the people. The people haven't been taken yet.
Well,
because we are philosophically and lawfully, based on common law and God's law, and spiritually opposed to it. And again, there's that fraud thing that people are waking up, but a lot of people don't even know about this thing about de facto government, and the government's a corporation, right?
Right.
But they're waking up to it more and more and more. The one lingering thought I always have that I think we should still address, it probably needs to be addressed a lot. The one lingering thing that does always come back to me, and I brought it up before, is what's to stop them from essentially, and even Joseph last night, he was reading case studies and trying to say, well, where's the wins? Because basically the de facto, they've got all their articles and everything else on the internet. Oh, these de facto people are just a bunch of kooks. They're a bunch of conspiracy theorists. They're a bunch of anti-government people. They're not with the program, right? So that's not only they're doing all their labeling of people that are aware in an opposition to that reality, but they are, what's to stop them from taking that hardcore stand and starting to make it where they're even pushing it to the point of being illegal, that they're going to classify anybody who takes a common law, opposed to the de facto corporate government, terrorists in their own right, insurrectionists, because they're not with the government. They consider themselves the government, even though they're illegitimate, even though they're de facto, even though they're corporate, they're the government. So doesn't that just essentially say that anybody that doesn't accept that government is, according to them, out of line and an insurrectionist, a terrorist to begin with?
Well, that's their opinion. Yeah, that's their opinion. No doubt. That's been their opinion for a long time. But as long as we maintain the peace and we act peacefully and we act by the rule of law, it shouldn't be a conflict. It should just be enforcement.
And let me say one more thing on that, Eric, just to make this point. I'm sorry. Everything we just said, what we're talking about now is actually consistent with, again, the fact that most people will even hear what we just said and they'll be like, oh shit, I don't want to get caught in that little outside skirmish group. I'm going to stick with it de facto. Yes, government, I'll wear my mask, I'll get my jab, I'll do whatever you tell me to do. See, that's the reality of it. When you do yield to them, you're subject to them as their slave. Period.
Yeah. Well, you can only control what you control, and you can only do what you can do. And so just don't even worry about all that.
Right.
And focus on the goal and just keep trucking, man.
Right.
I mean, you either give it to God or not.
Right. Exactly.
And, for Grant being inebriated last night, I'll give him credit's due, but, man, I think he's missing an overall point. I think he really is a fundamental here. And it's probably because he's godless.
Yeah,
and
that's part of it.
He's still American. He still has his opinion and everything, right? But that's kind of why we need to just keep religion out of the call for the militia and just stick to the facts, because it just really turns
that hurt when you said that right there. See, because again, I'm thinking America, I'm thinking God, I'm thinking Constitution, I'm thinking one nation under God. There's the assertion again of keep God out of it when it comes to the militia. Problematic for me too,
The militia. Okay, so again, the militia is the people, right? But it's outlined, isn't it, Charles? It's outlined who the actual what is it? Is it organized? Unorganized? It's the organized militia is the body of men, and so that's what they full posse commentate us for. Okay, and the body of men or fighting age people, right?
Well, to clarify that, obviously that varies in the de facto, but from state to state based on statutes, right? Organized, unorganized. But again, going back to constitutional, it's we the people, period. I mean, there was quite a bit of conversation about organized and unorganized militia in the beginning, because it was something that they faced right away, because they had a continental army, which I mean technically is a militia, and then they had the unorganized militia. The organized militia is like the state of Texas has the state guard, and that's their militia, right? Which I disagree with that, right? That's
well, no, it's actually perfectly lawful for the state of Texas to have its own army.
Right, but that's not the militia.
Well, it is the militia. It's the it's been trained, but they're using it incorrectly. Just because they use something incorrectly doesn't make it incorrect.
Well, they've got people thinking that the National Guard is the militia. The National Guard is not the militia.
The National Guard was the militia.
But it's not. They've
militia. So again, there's formations, and you have to understand the way the formations work to understand what's going on. And that's what I'm saying. So like National Militia Coordinator, well, you're acting in the capacity of organizing the county's militias to help them, to give them resource and stuff, right? And that's a pretty important position to be in, because people are going to be looking to you for leadership. Right. And then you have your state militia, which is, that's your body of people from the counties that have come together in unison to act as that defense force. So the people that are, just because the de facto government has created lies doesn't change the fact that it's actually perfectly legitimate for them to be doing that. That's what I'm saying. The forefathers talked about these things. So again, you have organized militia, right? And unorganized militia. And there's a difference. So the unorganized militia would be like the county, because posse comitatus, right? You train, you maintain safety, you do all these things, but it's really about the body of the community, unless the
Right.
sheriff calls upon you,
Right.
right? And then from that level, if things were working properly, then our governor would actually be able to be lawful, right? And then he would be able to call up all the counties or part of the counties to act as the state militia,
Right.
right. So that's what the delineation of all that was.
Right. Yeah.
And so we really want to try and maintain that, because, it's important to have a delineation, because you don't want two counties to be able to gang up together and go against another county, because then
Right.
you have lawlessness, right? And
Right.
so that's why our forefathers were pretty specific with how they tried to set the armies up, the militias.
Right. And again, there's that lingering, knowing that I just finished watching a 2-hour Jordan Maxwell video. Did you guys watch it? The one that Glenn put a link to it last night. It was in the chat. I'm gonna email it out to everybody today anyway. I watched it with my dad. It was 2 hours long. I don't agree with everything he's saying. I think he's taking an extreme. I can see where Glenn's coming from when he says there is no Jesus, because Jordan Maxwell basically starts off saying that the whole concept of Jesus is just complete fabrication, completely. There's never such a man that doesn't exist. Rather than saying, no, there's a fabricated, construction of religious concepts of Jesus that are fabricated, but the truth about the real man, Yeshua, is another reality, right? Instead of accepting that there's kind of two competing things going on, it's just like Glenn even said last night, right? He does throw the baby out with the bathwater, right?
Yeah.
No, there's no Jesus. There was no man Yeshua. There's no Jesus Christ. There's no God. There's no Savior. There's no redemption. There's no return, right? So yes, Jordan Maxwell was that was his underlying theme, but he went on for 2 hours showing a new day, right? And the change and the whole communist, global, worldwide takeover that's communist, that's communism. It's communism, which was what I've been harping on for months now, is it's all about a new world order, one world government agenda, which is a communist, godless agenda. And they have literally hijacked nations. That's their whole thing, right? So, I mean, it's here. It's
well, I wouldn't even call it communism. I think that might even be a compliment to what they're trying to construct. I mean, because communism was a tool that they used to get them to the new world order. The new world order is completely different than communism. It's a totalitarianism is what it is.
Right. Ultimately, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
So,
and if I might, real quick, there were some good things about communism. Marx talked about how there's class warfare going on. It's the rich against the poor. And there's a lot of people in left circles that are really big on this class warfare thing. And they could be brought in if we aren't using terms that turn them off and criticizing. If we could, if we just criticize tyranny and despotism and military police state, see, that doesn't go left or right on you.
That's right. That's right.
That'll give people the wiggle room to come in and feel part of the group legitimately, even if they do think Marx is second only to Jesus Christ.
Right. Yeah. I agree. Absolutely. Because again, we need the body of the people. We can't make this about us.
All good-hearted people. And this gets to, I was going to look up Exodus 18. We were talking earlier about the issue of righteousarmy.org. The word righteous, it just means knowing the difference between right and wrong.
Right. No, you're right.
That's secular terminology. That's judicial terminology. That's not religious one way or the other, except it is religious on standing for what's good and right. But the only people opposing it would be the devil worshippers who want to promote child trafficking and sex
Right, right. Well, I would agree with that, Charles, but we know mainstream America, right? The dummies that are just waking up, they're not going to be able to make that delineation.
We can't appeal to the lowest common denominator.
Well, no.
Let me finish, please. We got to appeal to our more intellectually advanced people that have actually done some damn homework on the issue, because once they get on our ship, then the other stupid looky-loos will go, oh, maybe I've been a little bit stupid on this, because my friend Joe that actually has his shit together is on board with this group. I guess maybe I was kind of stupid, and now I'll be on board with the people that I respect that are actually saying these guys are okay. We
Well,
can't appeal to the lowest common
I totally get your point. I totally get your point, and I agree wholeheartedly. However, we just have to look at the situation for what it is. And Righteous Army, again, was registered and all this other stuff. I mean, Joe, Mike needs to be able to do something with that. And so by keeping all this separated, like the militia, the two militia.
Again, the fact that it was registered, I mean, I was registered, but I declare now I'm not registered. I'm not a slave to the corporation. I am a sovereign. I am a sovereign of God. I'm a man. I'm a real man, right? I'm a living man of God. I make that claim.
Yeah, more technically, I wouldn't say I'm not registered. I'd say I have not entered into any legitimate contract whereunder I or my group has surrendered any of our sovereignty under God.
Right.
Because technically speaking, you have kind of filed out some paperwork with the Secretary of State. You don't want to be bold-faced lying about stuff.
Right.
Like
Thinking that was just not knowing that I was being frauded.
Well, just make the point clear in public that you have not entered into any legitimate contract to sacrifice any of your sovereignty or natural rights under God.
Right. So, I mean, what about that, Eric? I mean, because I Charles, I know you concur. So here's where we're at. We're all three righteous minded.
Hang on. You asked me what I thought about that. So just let me give you my real quick. I agree with Charles, but what I was trying to get a point across earlier is because people are just not bright enough by the whole, and we need the numbers in that area, right? So just in that Righteous Army, I've got no problem with. Promote the crap out of it. Do what you do, because you're actually really good. Like, you should do podcasts, right? Righteous Army podcasts, but have that as your platform and make money off of it. Support yourself, right? To be able to fund what else you're doing, right?
Yeah, well, as you know, people don't donate.
Well, no, you monetize yourself,
right?
You monetize it, and I can help you to do that. It's not hard to do. Okay, I mean, that's what we're doing with this website that I'm working on now. It's we're going to offer products. Right. And a certain amount of the proceeds go into the fund for.
Well, I definitely, I mean, everybody else on the internet monetizes, and I don't think there's anything wrong with monetizing, but yeah, I guess I'm a little slow there and not sure how to go about it, because that's never been really my intention or my motivation, you know. Well, so I'd like to. I'd love to be. I mean, the T-shirts, it's not a big monetization, but you know, it's kind of a dual thing, right? It's a way to advertise the site. And it's our banner. And okay, if I can
people love swag. And you know, you can offer educational materials, you can offer dried food goods, you could offer radios. I mean, you could,
I'd like to be able to do all that, frankly.
Yeah, and just use that platform to do it. Right.
So again, then you're definitely of the position, just for the sake of precision, keeping anything relative to the actual organization building, growing, structure, communications, protocol with militia, completely under the title or caption of National Militia Network, Militia USA. Mm-hmm. And is it only because Righteous Army? Because I mean, you did allude to the spiritual aspect, but Charles kind of clarified that. And again, that's one of those 50-50 things, because I concur, you know, that the definitions, you know, are more in our favor than opposed to us. I don't see them
They
working
are.
against us.
They are.
So if it's your position that it's just because of the fact that I registered,
It's
Um,
the two reasons. It's both. So it's because you registered it. You might as well take advantage of it, right? If you're going to do it.
what do you
The
mean by
other,
take advantage of it because I registered it?
well, because it's you registered it as a political entity, right? And so you can have your political opinions and your views on there. And it's already like, if they look at that, they're going to be like, oh, well, it says right here, it's political. He's just expressing his freedom of speech, First Amendment, right? It
Right.
just makes, okay. And the name, okay, again, I'm just playing devil's advocate here. Okay. And I've been out in the world a lot, traveled around the country a bit, and you start saying things like righteous, and lose a certain crowd that can bring a lot to the table, but they are still dumbed down and stupid, just like all Americans are right now, because we've been drinking the fluoride, right? We've been drinking the damn Kool-Aid. So we gotta take that into account a little bit. But Charles is absolutely right. We do need to seek out the bright minds. We make those people the coordinators and help to educate them by making sure they have good, accurate resource material.
Right.
available.
Yeah, and just for the record, Dan, I alluded to this in my earlier video today. You know, Dan made the point, because you mentioned numbers, and on the one hand, that's a 50-50 thing for me, because yeah, numbers, but Dan said it's not about numbers, it's not about quantity, it's about quality, right? Which goes to Charles's point, right? Having the right people involved. Because ultimately, yeah, if we can have the right, bright, preferably righteous minds, in communities that are putting forth those efforts to develop their community under, militia or unorganized militia or posse comitatus or whatever legal name needs to be attached to it, that would be best. So you said because it's associated with political views, does that include social too? It's like political and social.
Well, you said political, social, and that's
Right.
what you're expressing. Like,
what if I said it was a social? What if I didn't put the word political and just use social? Is it still kind of the same thing?
Well, I mean, yeah, because you're still expressing your opinion, right?
Right.
And social, I mean, like, you can be building a community of people that are like-minded, that share your view and want to come on and listen to your podcasts and things
Right.
like that. That's totally fine. Yeah.
So you're saying
That
the
worked out
political
really
and social aspect of the registered righteous army is what you view as being kind of contradictory or adverse to the militia in terms of a constitutional.
Yeah, you've got 3 tools at your disposal, so use the tools wisely. And so you've got 2 that are centered around the militia, right? The name militia. Use those for that, and use Righteous Army to build a presence, right, for yourself, and monetize it so that you can put some money in your pocket while you're doing all this work. Okay.
Right. So basically, right.
It's just strategic. Yeah. It's just a strategic thought process of mine.
And your final thoughts on that, Charles? Does that make sense to you as well, as far as fine tuning it? Because it's political and social, therefore see, I think Charles and I both are going to struggle with that, because we believe in, ultimately, it's about the godly. Even the militia should be godly. God's people, militia, all the same thing. I don't know, man.
But those are y'all's opinions. Those are your opinions. And I share in that opinion, but other people have a different opinion.
Right.
Well,
so we have to be respectful of that. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Charles.
thank you. Again, we can't be overly concerned. Sure, it's a concern, but the grassroots common people that are not educated on these issues, they're not the ones that are going to be pivotal in how all of this develops. We got to communicate with people that are of our caliber or closely behind us. Okay, we got to communicate with people that have done the basic minimal homework, that know that there are serious things wrong here, and that we've been lied to. 95% of what we've been told is a lie, and so I think you're articulating arguments that really are a very minor concern, Eric. And if I might go on, there was one other issue: the social what was those two words? One social and what was the other word?
Political and social.
Okay, social and political. We had armed conflict on January 6th, 2021 because of political issues. Okay, American national political issues were the cause of armed conflict. People died on that day because of armed conflict. And if 2 years before that, Michael had $5 million and had good counselors around him, we could have been in Washington, D.C., and we could have de-escalated that whole sack of shit.
That's a fact.
Trump engineered a mob. I think Trump's working with Pelosi and
right.
all of the other Democrats. They're all in bed. They're
That's
all
right.
butt fucked by the devil. Okay,
That's right.
and they're working together. And now they've basically taken out all of the January 6th protesters, which were the right wingers that are ready to get up and rock and roll about these issues. But they created a purposefully engineered scenario wherein they were led like sheep to the slaughter. Trump was a Judas goat and he sold them out.
It's a fact.
So the political issue can't be divorced from it. And if you comprehend the Exodus 18 model, grassroots, bottom-up organizing, the townships and the precincts, that's where all of your political process happens. To this day, every voter in America, registered de facto voter, they're listed as having a certain precinct. Okay, that's because the real common law power is down there at the precinct level. That's where they got to draw their authority ultimately. County has no authority, state feds have no authority unless it comes from the grassroots up through the precincts. Okay, and that's also when you understand, comprehend the Exodus 18 model, everything social and political is done at the local 10-house household township level, and you only bring in the bigger 100 court at the precinct level and the county level and everything higher on up if at the local community township level of the town constable, if you build off of that. The foundation is the local community, and it's both social and it's political, and I dare suggest, at least in a lot of cases, it'll also be religious. I would use.
Okay, so my points were merely this. Okay, again, I want to reiterate just to make sure we're all clear. My point is that if you're going to do something, right, you need to be strategic in your thought process, okay, and you need to really maximize your effort and try to keep it as simple as possible, because the more you complicate it, the more you muddy the water, and that gets difficult. So the whole idea of this entity, the Righteous Army, being registered already, it's already on the books as being political and social in their jurisdiction, just to prevent having to mess with it right now while we're trying to actually do the work that's required to build the counties, just like you're saying, okay, Charles, just like you're saying, then we just need to be strategic. It gives Mike an opportunity to be able to make a little money off of some of his efforts that he's doing, so that he.
Money's a distraction, Eric. We got to organize the community, and that can be done on a very low budget without focusing on trying to build the money.
You know what? I don't think Mike's going to I don't think Mike's going to profit a whole lot, man. That's the whole thing. But I mean, the guy works like, how many hours a day do you spend doing this, Mike? Just out of curiosity. I know money's not the thing, right? That's not the focus, but eating is. Being able to feed yourself is. And so we have to make sure that we're very thoughtful about everything that we do in this world. Otherwise, we're going to end up starving, or we're going to end up, really in chains.
So are you also asserting or suggesting that that it would be improper to be making money while promoting and pushing the militia? Is that a conflict of interest?
I kind of think that that is, because that's for the body of the people. That would be like me trying to make money off of what I'm trying to do. I'm not ever going to receive a paycheck from what I'm doing. This website was donated. I won't make any money off of it. All the money that comes into it goes right back.
Charles, he kind of hooked me with that one. What are your thoughts? Because earlier I was going to say, I'm with Charles and I kind of agree. I feel like I'm what's the word? Giving in, or I feel like I'm, what's that word? Like I'm compromising, right? Like I feel like I'm compromising by getting rid of righteous army to do the militia for the sake of, something more accurate. And that's why I think Charles was just protecting that same line of thinking right there. But actually, he just hooked me with that one. I think, Eric hooked me with that one, Charles. What are your thoughts? So that there's a separation of any, thing of, me capitalizing or making any money off of the fact that we're trying to build the militia. That sets well with me, that I would like to separate that, so that militia people know they can come on and they're not supporting me when they're joining the militia. Although again, I've tried to point out the blue donor box is, a militia national fund, but again, that could be, again, Eric, maybe I'll let you take the lead on how that should be done. Because again, that's an issue on how we can raise money and it's not in their, corporate, de facto banks and all that as well, right? We'd want to keep that money some way, somehow cleaner, as well. But yeah, he hooked me with that one, Charles.
If I might respond, the biblical Torah law and the common law tradition, the money flows from the grassroots up. It flows from the 10 household tithing group, township. Okay, the church tithings, they're voluntary, they're not coercive. If people don't have the money, they don't have to give. But the people that do have the money, they're expected to contribute. And at the local town, let me finish, please. At the local township level, there's only 10 households there. Everybody knows everybody, and they know if somebody's cheating. Okay, and so if Michael adopts the common law and biblical Torah law policy of give the donations to your local chapter representative, your local county sheriff, your local precinct captain, your local town constable, give that to them, and they'll pass a percentage on up the hierarchy through the county, the state, eventually to the national coordinator, which will be Mike.
That was great, Charles, because actually I did want to say that's in fact what I have promoted at times. And my intention was to tell people, just like with the Zoom meetings, right? I mean, we know I created a page for every state, right? And that page is representative of, hey, here's your state page. It's got your state flag. It's got a link to your state constitution. It's got a link to all your sheriffs. It's got a link to Europe of the last battle. And over time, we could put other things in there that are important. So yes, as we get more point men, point women that are organizing in their communities, the unorganized militia for Posse Comitatus to, develop in their communities, that yes, it was my intention that there's a link for their own Zoom meeting. There's a link for their bank account where they can raise money in their community. And you're right, they could give a percentage of that to the national. So that was certainly in my thinking. So there is a degree of money raising, I guess, is what Charles, in other words, Charles, you hooked me, and Charles kind of took the hook out, because there's still that reality of, having money come in while developing the militia. So
so you don't have to take in money, right, from the militia. I mean, the donate button, why would you take money for them to donate to their county militias, right? Why would it run? Right. So just take that off of there, right? And then just use your platform to raise money to put into this. And if somebody generously just comes up with the idea that, hey man, I like what Mike's doing, and I'm going to send Mike a check because I think Mike needs some help in making this website better. Or if you want to make improvements to the website, put it to the people. Say, hey, listen, I've got some ideas about upgrading the websites. I want to run it past you guys, have committees, I mean, just be organized about it, but just be as transparent as you possibly can. And the best way to do that is just not involve money at all.
Right. Yeah, that's
Right.
true. So, yeah. So, yeah, it's a toughie for me because I wish Dan was here, I should have got him on the call with us actually, because, I then it would be 3 against 1, I think.
Well, I don't look at this. I don't.
I'm
think you
just
should
playing with you, man. No, we're all on the same page.
competition.
You're just, again, for the record, I know and understand, and I know Charles does, that you are the sharpest tool in the shed because that's what you prayed to God many years ago to become. And you're just trying to keep this thing as lawful and articulate and accurate as possible, for the benefit of all.
Just so you know, Mike,
Yeah.
just to clarify, that comment is not meant to mean that I'm smart. It's just absolutely to show you just how dumb. And
No,
because anybody that asks,
we're all calling you smart. So
yeah,
I know it's tough to be humble when people are, lifting you up, ain't it?
I'm just saying it really, I say that as a joke to make me, it does humble me because I mean, who in the hell asked God for that? Right. I must be a lunatic.
Meanwhile, as Eric and I think we're so smart, Charles is over there knowing he's the smartest of the bunch.
We all each know that we're the smartest guy in the room. Each one of us has that delusion. Am I wrong? Come on.
No, not wrong. No, we all live with the delusion.
Yeah. I think we're all humble students of the higher power, however you want to phrase that.
Right on, yeah.
And that's why we're attracted to each other, is because we recognize other people that we might not individually think are quite as smart as us, but they're at least running a close second. They're doing their homework and they're up to speed. They're not cowards. Okay. So this is a good thing that we're networking, even though we might think we're a little bit smarter than these guys.
All right. So I got you. So actually, again, probably, some changes are going to be made. But, right now it's the way my mind works is this was just a lot of information and there's changes that need to be made. Right. So my mind kind of has to process all that.
And hey, we've developed a pretty solid consensus here. Okay. Now, next time you have some talk with Dan, you can tell him, you can bring him up to speed quick and efficient on what we did. And in fact, you can probably post the video here and let him go review it. So he can come up to speed quick and efficient. This was good work product. And when there's a lot of smart people together, I dare say it's a pity because a lot of the really good, talented people don't get an opportunity to talk while the drunks are talking and jabbering about rather irrelevant crap. And so, people that have noble souls, this is where nobility comes in. They'll back off. They just won't even compete with the goofballs that are egomaniacs. So. Don't want to be specific on that, but just general principles. The smaller groups of sincere and intelligent people are really where we get our traction.
Right. Okay? And going to your point, Eric, of the openness and sharing this video, just for the record, obviously I'll share this with the world. It doesn't matter. But this is kind of our, kind of personalized where we're just talking about in-house issues. So on this video, other people might share it with the world. I don't care, but I'm just going to send this video out. I usually send it out to my whole email list, even from all my emails. I send it to all the sheriffs. I send it to my big virus 1500 contacts list and everything, all my videos. But this one, anybody who's signed up on my link, for Righteous Army or Militia or Free Florida, the specific people that have, jumped on board or contacted me because of the interest, which is around 400 people. All those people are the only people I'm going to send this to. I could just say I'm only going to send it to, Brian and Dan and really keep it in-house.
It doesn't matter.
But it doesn't matter. And I think it's healthy for this conversation we're having to get out there for the public anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. Because
so I'll probably even send it. Yeah, I'll just send it even to the sheriffs and everybody I send it to. Yeah.
Well, everybody in America has one major deficiency, and that's the fact that we've forgotten how to communicate with one another efficiently and accurately. So we've come into a place in our society where emotion is what controls the day and not intellect and reason. And that's a distinct difference than where our forefathers were at and we are. So we really need to work on those. So this is all, anytime we can do this, it's like Charles said, I mean, it's a great product.
Right.
Absolutely.
I guess one last question then. Would there be a way, just last ditch, right, to save Righteous Army? Would there be, in theory, a way of saying, okay, yeah, we registered and it was political social, but you know what? It's a great name. It's what we draw people on, and it could still apply and have some tinge of, okay, we're Righteous Army building the militia. So of detaching what was done and saying, okay, we're no longer part of that. We're no longer registered. We're going to detach it from, whatever was done to make it such, undo that.
I'm not sure if I completely understand the question. Could you summarize that for me just a little bit?
Yeah, so to the extent that we've kind of agreed with you on your position that it's because it was registered and associated with political social, that is the main reason we kind of want to detach that from our efforts with building the militia, the unorganized militia, the posse comitatus, the grassroots effort in the community that we're endeavoring to do. Since it was for those reasons, is there a way to undo that? Is there a way to undo what those reasons were to still use the name?
Well,
and move forward still as,
again, to me, it's not black and white like that. Like, you're not killing Righteous Army. You're not doing away with Righteous Army. You're just changing the tools use. You're utilizing your toolbox. I mean,
Gotcha,
that's what we do is, I mean,
Right.
God gives us these tools. God puts us in positions. What there's a saying, a scriptural saying, and I wish I could remember it, but it's something about God doesn't choose something, you know what I mean? Like, God chooses us whether we're ready or not, and he makes us ready when he uses us, right? Kind of that idea. I wish I could remember that quote. But anyway.
And I admit it, I guess I'm just going through my emotional detachment now. No, I'm just playing. But like you said, no, it's not emotional. It's got to be intellect. Overall, I agree with you, Eric, because I told you, we came to the consensus here. We hashed it out, and yeah, that makes sense. It's a different tool. Use it for a different reason. Militia USA, National Militia Network, specifically constitutional militia. Separate, money making from it. That's the organization tool for building and uniting lawfully militia. I could still use Righteous Army as, hey, here's my personal views, and this is what I think people should do. And I can have a link to Militia USA in that.
I think that would go a long way to protecting your integrity and to protecting the integrity of what it is that we're doing. I really,
yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, I appreciate that, Eric. Yeah,
sure.
Charles. Yeah. All right, guys. So good, man. So yeah, again, the way my mind works is as skeptical and critical minded as I am on things all the time. When a change occurs, yeah, it's like I feel like, okay, now I got to process the change. It might take 5 minutes, it might take 2 hours, but yeah, processing the change. All right. Thanks, guys.
No problem, Mike. Thanks for taking the time to listen.
All right, man. Talk to you guys Wednesday night. See you then.
All right. Y'all have a blessed night. Bye-bye.
You too. Bye.